was. The stable one, the fixer, the one who quietly cleaned up other people's messes. Turns out I was actually the designated doormat. The day everything cracked open started with a text that didn't even bother to pretend it was a request. I need $2,000 for a car down payment. You'll co-sign. No hi, Aunt Joyce. No explanation. Not even a forced please. Just a demand, written by my 24-year-old nephew Caleb, like I was some Department of Emergency Funds he could ticket at will. I was in the middle of a client call at work when my phone lit up. Spreadsheets on one screen, budget projections on the other, my headset halfway slipping off my ear, and there it was, his message sitting on top of the notification bar like a slap. For a few seconds, I just stared at it. The usual reaction kicked in first, that tight, choking rush of guilt, the instinct to fix, to smooth, to make sure everyone was okay, even if it broke me a little more. But under that was something else, a tired, low-burning anger that had been simmering for years. Because Caleb wasn't just any 24-year-old, he was my brother Todd's only son. And if you met him, you'd think he'd been raised by wolves that had access to Wi-Fi and luxury online shopping. The way he talked to people, the entitlement, the way he expected life to hand him things he hadn't even tried to earn. It was like he'd skipped the entire process of becoming a decent human being. And it wasn't an accident. Todd let it happen. Todd was one of those men who thought laid-back parenting meant not parenting. He let Caleb do whatever he wanted while he did the bare minimum. No chores, no curfews, no consequences. Caleb never had a part-time job, never heard the word no, but he always had nice sneakers, the newest iPhone, and an attitude like the world owed him interest. I used to keep my distance from it all. I told myself, their choices, their consequences. My life was separate. My stability, my apartment, my job, that was my world. Then, 3 years ago, Todd called me. I still remember where I was. In my kitchen, reheating leftovers, the glow of the microwave clock the only light in the room. His voice came through the phone wrecked, soaked in panic. He said he'd lost his job, that he was behind on rent, that Caleb might end up on the street. Every sentence came layered in guilt. You're the only one we have. You know how hard it is. You're doing so well. We just need a little help. The guilt was so thick I could barely breathe. I told myself it would only be temporary, just a bridge until they got back on their feet. So I did what I thought a good sister is supposed to do. I used the money I'd been putting aside for a second investment property and bought them a 2-bedroom condo in a decent neighborhood, paid in full, under my name because Todd's credit was a disaster. I set up the utilities. I even took care of the HOA fees so they wouldn't feel overwhelmed. Todd promised he'd find work. He said Caleb was looking into community college. He swore they'd contribute once things stabilized. None of that ever happened. Todd never got another job. Caleb never went to school. They just settled in, like squatters who'd won the lottery. The only difference was that I kept paying the bills that made it possible. So now, 3 years later, my grown nephew was texting me like a spoiled prince demanding tribute. I need $2,000. You'll co-sign. My thumbs hovered over the keyboard as years of resentment tightened in my chest. I thought about unpaid bills, late-night transfers, excuses about bad timing, and tough months. I thought about birthdays where I'd bought Caleb's gifts because Todd, felt bad he couldn't. Then something in me finally snapped into place. I typed, "Not happening." Hit send. And for the first time in years, I felt a sliver of peace. It lasted 60 seconds. Then my phone rang. Todd. I answered, already bracing myself. He didn't say hello. He didn't ask about my day. He didn't even ask why. He just barked into the phone, harsh and commanding. "Do it or you're out." I let the words hang there for a moment. "Out of what, Todd?" I asked quietly. He had no answer, just more bluster, more ego, more entitlement. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I simply took the phone away from my ear and ended the call. Click. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat at my dining table with my laptop open. For a while, I just stared at the login pages. Gas, electric, water, 3 tabs of obligation. 3 tabs of every reason they never had to grow up. My heart pounded, but my hands were steady. First, the electric account. I scrolled, clicked disconnect service, confirmed. Then the gas, then the water. Each confirmation email landed in my inbox like a small, quiet verdict. No warning, no countdown, no polite reminder. Just enough. The next morning, at exactly 9:02 a.m., my voicemail exploded. Todd went first, furious, spitting curses, claiming I'd betrayed him. Then Caleb calling me a toxic biakik, saying I'd ruined his life and made his girlfriend suffer. Then Sierra, Caleb's girlfriend, who had somehow moved into the condo without ever speaking a single word to me, screaming about tenant rights and illegal shutoffs like she'd gone to law school. TikTok edition. I didn't listen to the messages twice. I didn't respond. Instead, I blocked all three of them. Phone, text, socials. Silence finally followed. A strange, heavy silence that felt more like the pause between thunder and the second strike of lightning than actual peace. Around midnight, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a different name on the screen. Jenna. She was a neighbor in their building. Someone I'd bumped into a few times in the hallway whenever I went over to drop off paperwork or check the mailbox. Polite, reserved, but observant. Her text read, "Hey Joyce, just FYI, there was a lot of yelling from your place tonight. Looked like someone smashed something. Hope everything's okay." Something cold slid down my spine. I didn't reply right away. I just stared at Jenna's message, my mind replaying Todd's threats, Caleb's insults, Sierra's entitlement. I shouldn't have been surprised that anger followed the lights going out, but the word smashed stuck with me. The next morning, just after sunrise, I drove to the condo. The hallway was quiet when I arrived. Too quiet. The cheap overhead lights hummed softly. I noticed immediately that the door to their unit was unlocked. Todd and Caleb never left it unlocked. I turned the knob and pushed. The smell hit me first. A faint mix of dust and something sharper, like ceramic powder. The curtains were still drawn, leaving the living room in this dull half-light. Then I looked down. The floor was covered in shards of glass. No, not just glass. Porcelain, paint, history. My vase collection. 6 antique vases I'd been collecting for years. 1 from a weekend trip to Paris, 2 hand-painted pieces from Italy, chosen carefully from a tiny shop on a side street. 1 that belonged to our grandmother, the one that always sat in her hallway with dried lavender in it. The one that smelled like home when we were kids. I'd stored them here in this condo because my apartment didn't have the space or the right shelving. I thought they'd be safer here, away from clumsy guests and my own clutter. Now they were all destroyed. Not knocked over, not accidentally chipped. Pulverized. Smashed so thoroughly it felt almost intentional. Like someone had taken their time, made the decision, raised their arm again and again until the delicate curves of each vase were nothing but dust and glittering shards. I didn't cry. I just stood there in the middle of the destruction, my shoes crunching faintly, my throat tight but dry. The silence in that condo felt different than the silence on my phone. It felt final. I pictured it in my mind without even wanting to. Caleb pacing, red-faced, raging about how unfair it all was. Todd slumped on the couch, maybe half watching, half encouraging. Sierra, arms folded, eyes sharp, egging him on like she had any right to be in this space at all. And then, like a curtain lifting, the truth slid into focus. They thought this place was theirs. The condo, the power, the water, the furniture, the roof over their heads. They thought they owned it. They thought I was just the sponsor in the background. But it was never theirs. It had always been mine. 3 years ago, Todd had called me crying, saying he'd lost his job, that Caleb needed stability, that they just needed a place for a few months. He painted it like I'd be saving them, like I'd be the hero. Instead, they turned me into their provider, their excuse, their target, and now their victim. Except I wasn't going to stay that. I carefully stepped back from the worst of the broken porcelain and took one last look around the condo, at the mess, the destruction, the absolute disrespect. The grief for my grandmother's vase burned hot for a moment, but under it, something else bloomed. A hard, crystal-clear resolve. They thought they'd finally put me in my place. What they didn't know was that I'd just decided to put them in theirs. And the move I was about to make next was going to change everything. The morning after I found the condo in ruins, the world felt different. Not louder, not quieter, just sharper. Like every sound had edges now. I drove home with my mind replaying the sight of my grandmother's lavender vase crushed into chalk, the hand-painted Italian pieces broken into glittering dust, the Paris vase that once sat on my mantel, reduced to shards so small they barely reflected light. Those weren't just objects. They were the last pieces of a life I'd built on my own, pieces I'd saved for, traveled for, earned with long hours and careful planning, pieces that represented moments of peace and joy. and they had destroyed them without a second thought. When I got home, I walked straight to my desk, sat down, and opened my laptop. For years, I'd kept myself in limbo, too scared to cut Todd and Caleb off completely, too tired to keep enabling them. But standing in that condo surrounded by ruins had snapped something permanent in me. No more gray area, no more half measures, no more chances. The line had been drawn. I logged into the utility accounts again. Not to reconnect anything, but to make it final. Permanent disconnection. All 3 services. My emails dinged with confirmations one after another. Then I opened my inbox and typed a name I hadn't needed in years. Attorney Michael Rowe, the real estate lawyer who had helped me navigate a messy property dispute during the pandemic. My message was short. Hi, Michael. I need immediate assistance with an eviction and lock change for a property I own. There's also property damage involved. Can we talk today? He replied within minutes. Call me in 10. I didn't wait 10, I called in 5. Michael didn't gasp or act shocked. He'd probably heard worse stories, but he listened closely, asked smart questions, and by the end of the call, I had a plan and a path forward. When we hung up, I sat back in my chair and exhaled. For the first time in years, it felt like my life wasn't happening at me. I was making the next move. The right move. By late afternoon, I'd scheduled a locksmith for early the next morning. Michael had drafted the documents I needed, including a formal eviction notice backed by proof of ownership and clear documentation of property damage. I printed everything, signing where he indicated. Every signature felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. The next morning, at 9:00 a.m., I met the locksmith at the condo building. The hallway still carried echoes of last night's chaos. Scuffed walls, a shoe mark on the elevator door, an empty energy drink can kicked into the corner. The locksmith was fast, efficient, professional. Within 15 minutes, the old lock was gone, replaced by a new, sturdier one. He handed me 2 freshly cut keys. I turned one over in my hand. Mine, finally and fully mine. As soon as he left, I taped the eviction notice to the front door, effective immediately. Along with the attached documentation, photos, timestamps, and the signatures my lawyer had prepared. Then I took a copy of that same notice and posted it on the community bulletin board in the building's mailroom. Todd had told so many lies over the years that transparency felt necessary. Let everyone see the truth. Let witnesses exist. As I walked out of the building, my phone buzzed. A message from Jenna, the neighbor who lived 1 floor below Todd and Caleb. They're back, and they're outside the door screaming. Caleb kicked it twice. Your brother's threatening to get a lawyer. You okay? I stared at her message and exhaled through my nose. I typed back. I'm okay, don't worry about me. But I didn't add the truth. I felt better than okay. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. 2 days passed before Todd managed to get through to me using a number I didn't recognize. I answered only because curiosity got the better of me. He didn't say hello, didn't ask if I was safe, didn't even ask why. He went straight into accusations. You had no right to do that, he yelled, voice cracking with fury. You embarrassed me. You humiliated my son. You made us homeless, Joyce. I held the phone to my ear calmly, my voice even. The condo is mine, Todd. Always has been. I paid for 3 years of your living expenses, utilities, and HOA fees. In return, I got broken heirlooms and more disrespect than I can count. You're exaggerating, Kim, he snapped. I have photos, I replied, and the deed, and every bill with my name on it. He swallowed that, but there was one thing Todd excelled at, doubling down even when he was cornered. You'll regret this, he spat before hanging up. I didn't feel fear, not even anger, only relief. Within a week, the news had rippled through the family. Todd was spinning lies faster than he could breathe. He told everyone he had bought the condo himself, that I had kicked him out to impress someone at work, that Caleb was launching a business and needed space. It was an absolute circus. My cousin Danielle, always the most grounded one, called first. Joyce, please tell me you didn't actually pay for their entire place. I did, I said simply, and I have the receipts. She was silent for a long moment. Then she whispered, then he deserved every bit of what's happening. Within 24 hours, half the cousins knew the full truth. Some stayed neutral, but most, they were done with Todd. Several even messaged me. You did what no one else had the courage to do. They needed this wake-up call. It was only a matter of time. Their support didn't fix everything, but it steadied something inside me. Meanwhile, Todd and Caleb quietly moved out of the condo. I didn't know where they went. And honestly, I didn't care. because I had one last step to complete this chapter: selling the condo. I contacted a realtor I trusted. She staged it beautifully. Fresh linens, neutral tones, warm lighting that made the place feel bigger than it was. In 6 days, there were 2 offers. I accepted one before the end of the week. I thought that would be the end of it. I thought selling the condo would be the closure I'd needed for years. But 2 weeks later, Todd and Caleb did something I didn't see coming. Something that didn't just reopen the wound. It turned the whole situation into war. Selling the condo should have been the ending. It felt like the final page of a book I'd been forced to read for 3 years. Closed, signed, done. The walkthrough was clean. The buyer was polite. The transfer paperwork felt like a release valve finally opening. For 48 blissful hours, my life went quiet. But people like Todd and Caleb don't accept consequences. They don't pause to self-reflect. They don't learn. They attack. The first strike came on a Thursday morning. I was halfway through a report when my manager, Evan, knocked on the glass door of my office. He wasn't the type to look anxious, but that morning, he hovered awkwardly in the doorway. "Joyce, got a minute?" I assumed a rescheduled meeting or a client update. Instead, he walked me to his office with the kind of careful politeness usually reserved for HR interventions. He closed the door, sat down, and slid a printed email across the desk. "We received this." I picked it up. A wall of text, dense, rambling paragraphs typed in angry bursts. Anonymous complaint to corporate, accusing me of making sexist and hostile remarks during a client video call, emotional manipulation, abusing my position, a long history of workplace toxicity, being mentally unstable in a professional environment. There were no dates, no names, no specifics, just venom. It read like someone's unhinged diary entry, not a professional complaint. But one sentence iced my blood. She believes she's above accountability due to her financial power over family members. There it was, their fingerprint. Todd and Caleb might as well have signed their names at the bottom. Evan watched my face carefully. "We're required to review it," he said gently. "But I want you to know, this doesn't sound like you, at all." HR interviewed a few coworkers. No one had anything negative to say. Case closed in 2 days. But the damage wasn't over, not even close. That weekend, a 1-star review appeared on our firm's Google page. It mentioned me by full name. "Joyce Peck is unprofessional, unstable, and verbally abusive. She should not be trusted in any financial setting." The review stayed up for barely an hour before it was flagged and removed, but not fast enough to avoid being noticed. One coworker slid up to me in the break room. Did you make someone angry?" I forced a tight smile. Family issues. But inside, something cold and sharp twisted, because I knew exactly who was behind it. 3 days later, the next attack was worse. A fake LinkedIn profile appeared using my name and photo. Only, the me on that page was a bizarre caricature. Fabricated job history, exaggerated titles, self-congratulatory nonsense, posts about reclaiming feminine power through financial manipulation. I stared at the screen, nauseated. It was mocking me, designed to humiliate, created by someone who had nothing but time, anger, and Wi-Fi. And that's when it hit me. They weren't lashing out, they were waging war. Todd was too proud to apologize. Caleb was too entitled to take responsibility. And together they had found a new pastime: destroy Joyce. A slow, steady burn lit in my chest. Fear dissolved. Anger sharpened. Resolve settled. They wanted a war? Fine. They could have one. But I wasn't going to fight like them, with tantrums and lies and desperation. I was going to fight like someone who had evidence, receipts, a spine, and a very good lawyer. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of tea that went cold, untouched beside me. The condo sale had given me distance, but not closure. So I made a list, a long one. Every utility bill I'd paid, every grocery delivery Todd had begged for, every text asking for rent help, every month of HOA fees, every apology he'd sent when he couldn't afford Caleb's birthday gift, every overdraft I'd covered, every lie he'd told family members, every glass shard I'd swept off the condo floor. I dumped everything into a folder titled Caldwell versus Peck. Civil case evidence. Then I called Michael again. He reviewed the documents slowly, tapping a pen against his desk. Finally, he looked up and said, "We can pursue them for unpaid rent, utilities, HOA, and property damage, possibly defamation, depending on how far these online attacks go." His calm confidence settled something inside me that had been rattling for months. We moved forward. And 3 days later, Todd got served outside a donut shop. Jenna texted me a photo of him standing there, holding the papers with a stunned expression that would have been funny if it weren't so pathetic. 2 hours later, Caleb got served in a Planet Fitness parking lot. Apparently, he threw the folder, screamed at the process server, and then locked himself inside his car like a toddler having a meltdown. The total lawsuit, $146,300. It was only then, that they realized I wasn't bluffing. Todd started calling relatives, sobbing about how I was destroying the family name. Caleb posted cryptic Instagram stories about snakes and fake bloodlines. Most cousins ignored them. Some messaged me privately with, "About time someone held them accountable." "Proud of you, Joyce. Should have happened years ago." But then someone else stepped into the battlefield. Sierra, Caleb's girlfriend. She wasn't just a bystander anymore, not just a smug freeloader living off a condo I paid for. Now, she had decided to make herself useful to their cause. And she was about to escalate things in a way that even Todd and Caleb hadn't dared to attempt. Because Sierra wasn't just angry, she wanted revenge. If Todd and Caleb were a storm, Sierra was the lightning strike, sudden, sharp, and always aimed to destroy something. After the lawsuit filings, she moved from background nuisance to full-blown weapon. I'd underestimated her once. I wouldn't make that mistake again. Her first move hit my workplace. 2 days after Caleb's meltdown in the Planet Fitness parking lot, I was returning from lunch when a young woman I'd never seen before walked into my office lobby. She had a polished handbag, oversized sunglasses, and the posture of someone performing confidence she didn't actually have. She approached the receptionist's desk and said, "Hi, I'm here to see my aunt, Joyce Peck." Aunt. My receptionist, who's used to politely screening chaos, looked confused, but tried to remain courteous. "Do you have an appointment? Joyce didn't mention anyone visiting today." "Oh, she wouldn't," the woman said with a dramatic sigh. "She's private." That was the moment the receptionist texted me. "Joyce, do you have a niece named Sierra? She says she's here to see you." My blood ran cold. Sierra, the girlfriend who'd screamed at me through voicemail. The girl who had lived off my condo without paying a single dollar. The one who fed Caleb's ego like it was a dying pet. She showed up at my job? Absolutely not. I stepped into the lobby just in time for her to see me, and the look in her eyes was pure calculation. "Oh, hi, Aunt Joyce," she said loudly, as if she wanted the whole office to hear. "I really need to talk to you about our family situation." I didn't take the bait. "No," I said simply. "You need to leave." Her mouth curled into a smile that wasn't a smile at all. "Okay," she said sweetly, "but your coworkers are going to love what they see soon." She walked out without another word. I stood there in the marble-floored lobby, surrounded by the soft murmur of office chatter, my heart beating slow and heavy, not fast from fear, slow from fury, because I knew that wasn't a threat, it was a promise. That night, it arrived. A burner Instagram account tagged my employer 3 times within 20 minutes. User: @JoycePeckTruth. Exposed. The profile featured only one post so far, a collage of club photos with my face clumsily edited onto the bodies of women dancing, drinking, pressing against strangers. It would have been laughable if it wasn't so deliberately malicious. The caption read, "Would you trust this woman with your money? #corrupt, #liar, #unstable. They even DM'd the company account with the post. It was amateur, desperate, and pathetic, but it was a calculated hit. Sierra wasn't lashing out emotionally. She wanted me fired, humiliated, destroyed. I took screenshots of every post, every tag, every story, every comment. Every piece of it went into the evidence folder. Before I could even strategize my next move, the universe did it for me. The next morning, Sierra's employer, an insurance firm, fired her. Someone had forwarded her burner account to her HR department. I didn't know who. Maybe Danielle. Maybe Jenna. Maybe one of my coworkers who'd overheard her dramatics in the lobby. Whoever it was, Sierra's downfall started fast. She texted me later that afternoon. "Joyce, please, can we talk? I didn't mean for it to get this bad. Please answer me." I didn't reply. I screenshotted it and forwarded it to my lawyer. But Sierra wasn't done burning bridges. Not long after her firing, a message popped up in my requests folder from someone named Lisa. At first, I didn't recognize the name. Then I clicked her profile. She was tagged in old photos with Sierra, smiling together at parties, hugging, clinking wine glasses. Ex-best friend. The message preview read, "You don't know me, but you need to see this." I opened it. Inside were screenshots, dozens of them. Sierra bragging in group chats about and crafting the fake HR complaint, writing the Google review, making the burner account, planning a counterclaim that I financially exploited the family, ruining Joyce's life so she learns a lesson. There were even voice notes. Sierra's voice, unmistakable, bragging about how Todd and Caleb were too emotional and stupid to plan anything properly, so she took over. My hands shook, not with fear, but with the silent rage of someone who had been pushed far past the edge of patience. There it was, the bomb, the proof, the end of their credibility. I thanked Lisa through a single message and forwarded every piece to my lawyer. Around the same time, someone else reached out. My aunt, the one who always defended Todd, the one who'd told me for years to just let Todd have what he needs. She called me crying. Todd and Caleb came to my house, she said. They're broke, desperate. They asked to stay here. I turned them away. I was stunned. She had never turned Todd away before, not once in 40 years. Then she said something I never expected to hear. I was wrong, Joyce. I should have believed you. I'm sorry. For the first time since everything began, something in my chest unclenched. She wasn't the only one watching the truth unravel. Everyone was. 2 weeks later, the storm finally reached the courthouse. But they weren't ready. They still believed they could twist this, spin a story, play the victims. What they didn't know was that Michael and I had been building a mountain of evidence, and I had one final piece they didn't even know existed, something that would shatter the last lie they were clinging to. The lie Caleb told everyone, that I had promised him the condo. He had no idea I still had the text where I wrote, plain as day, "This is temporary, it stays in my name." That wasn't just a message. It was a nail in their coffin, and in court I was going to use it. The courthouse smelled like dust, paper, and cold air conditioning. An oddly fitting scent for the day, everything finally came to light. I arrived early, documents neatly organized in a binder I'd labeled Evidence, Peck versus Caldwell, though my lawyer, Michael, had already printed duplicates. I wasn't nervous, not anymore. 3 years of emotional exhaustion had burned the fear out of me, leaving something quieter, steadier, sharper. Todd and Caleb, on the other hand, they looked like they hadn't slept in days. Todd's hair was uncombed, clothes wrinkled, jaw covered in uneven stubble. Caleb slouched beside him in a hoodie, hands stuffed into the pockets like he was being forced to attend detention, rather than a civil hearing for over $146,000. And Sierra? She didn't show. Somewhere between getting fired and losing her online bravado, she'd quietly slipped out of the narrative, but her fingerprints were all over the evidence. Michael sat beside me, calm and immovable, a man who'd walked into courtrooms far uglier than this one. "You ready?" he murmured. I nodded once. The hearing began. The judge, a woman with steel gray hair and a gaze that could slice granite, reviewed the case file, flipping through the dozens of exhibits. Todd shifted anxiously. Caleb kept glancing at the door, like he expected someone to swoop in and rescue him. Their lawyer began with the classic sympathetic plea. "Your Honor, this is a family matter that escalated due to misunderstandings and emotions." The judge raised a hand. "Please don't insult the court. Stick to the facts." Their lawyer's smile collapsed. Michael stood, posture straight, voice steady. "Your Honor, the facts are simple. My client, Ms. Peck, purchased a condominium outright and allowed her brother and nephew to live in it temporarily. She paid all utilities, fees, and maintenance. For 3 years. He clicked the remote, projecting the first image. The deed with my name on it, then the utility records, then the bank transfers, then the HOA payments. 3 years of me carrying 2 grown adults on my back. Todd's lawyer objected, claiming intentions and verbal agreements, but Michael responded smoothly. "Intentions don't override documentation." The judge nodded approvingly. Next came the photographs of the condo damage, the shattered vases, the living room covered in porcelain dust, years of memories smashed in a tantrum. Todd squirmed. Caleb stared at the floor. "Your Honor," Michael said, "this damage occurred after my client cut off utilities she had paid for single-handedly for 3 years. The retaliation was deliberate." Their lawyer tried to argue the damage was accidental. Michael clicked again. Up came a screenshot from Caleb's private Instagram story, posted the night the vases were smashed. This is what happens when people push you. A timestamp, a location tag, a confession disguised as bravado. Caleb's face drained of color. The judge exhaled, long and slow. Then Michael unveiled the next set of documents. The fake HR complaint, the fake Google review, the burner Instagram account, the DM screenshots, the edited photos, the LinkedIn impersonation. The courtroom was silent except for the soft clicking of the projector remote. Caleb looked at Todd like this was somehow his fault, which honestly wasn't wrong. But the real blow came next. Michael opened a folder and handed the judge a notarized affidavit. Your Honor, this is testimony from Ms. Peck's witness, Lisa Hamilton, the former friend of Mr. Caldwell's girlfriend, Sierra. The judge read it, her eyebrows lifted in genuine surprise. The affidavit detailed everything, and Sierra admitting she wrote the fake HR complaint. Sierra bragging about planning the burner Instagram account. Sierra describing Todd and Caleb as too emotional and stupid to handle revenge. Sierra laying out the entire smear campaign step by step. Sierra and Caleb plotting a false police report. Caleb's jaw dropped open. Todd went pale. Their lawyer looked like he wanted to melt into his chair. Then Michael brought out the final piece. Sir Todd Caldwell claims the condo was promised to his son Caleb, he said. We have evidence directly contradicting that. He displayed a printed text on the projector screen. My message from 3 years ago. This is temporary. It stays in my name. Clear, direct, unbreakable. The judge tapped her pen against the bench, eyes fixed on Todd. Do you dispute this message was sent to you? Todd swallowed hard. No, but that was before. Before what? The judge asked. Before your sister paid for 3 years of your living expenses? Before your son vandalized her property? Before you retaliated with a coordinated online harassment campaign? He fell silent, so Caleb tried. She said the condo was... The judge snapped her gaze to him. You are done speaking. He slumped back, humiliated. Finally, the judge straightened the papers before her and delivered the ruling. Based on the overwhelming evidence, including financial documentation, property ownership, communication logs, and credible witness testimony, the court rules fully in favor of Ms. Peck. Todd sagged. Caleb blinked rapidly, like someone had slapped him. The judge continued. The defendants are ordered to pay $146,300 in damages, including backdated rent, utilities, HOA fees, and restitution for property damage. She wasn't done. Additionally, due to the documented harassment, impersonation, and coordinated defamation attempt, a civil harassment injunction is granted effective immediately. Caleb finally snapped. This is unfair. She ruined our lives. The judge glared. You ruined your own lives, Mr. Caldwell. Court is adjourned. The gavel cracked, and just like that, it was over. I gathered my documents, heart strangely calm. No thrill, no triumph, just a deep, cleansing certainty. This chapter was closing. But the universe had one last twist waiting for me. 2 nights after the verdict, at 2:30 a.m., my phone buzzed with a motion alert from my doorbell camera. The footage showed Caleb kneeling at my apartment door, fumbling with tools, trying to pick my lock. Todd stood behind him as lookout. This wasn't a tantrum. This wasn't revenge. This was desperation. And it was criminal. I called security, then the police. By the time officers arrived, Todd and Caleb were still at my door. They were arrested on the spot for attempted unlawful entry. I didn't press charges. I didn't need to. The mugshot spoke louder than any verdict.